In this video, let's see about the function in Python. So, what is a function in Python? The function is a set of code. It is run only when it is called. So, function is the process of automatically repeating tasks. So, it's a set of code that is used to do particular operation. For example, the function like addition or subtraction. These all are the function that is meant for a particular purpose. So in Python, there are three types of functions like library functions, inbuilt function, and user-defined function. So the library functions are the function which are available in some library. For example, date and time, and in inbuilt function, example, the print. The inbuilt function means the functions that are readily available in the Python itself. That is called as inbuilt function like print function and type function to check the type of the value. These all are the inbuilt function. Then we have user defined function. User defined function means here the user will define the function and he will use that function in its program or in its program to do a particular task. First, he will define the function and he will give the name to that function and he will use that function to particular operation. So then see what is the some of the rules for defining a function or name for function. So let's first see how to define a function. The function is defined like so. I will define one simple function so that you can understand by the practical manner. So in order to define a function, we have to use one keyword called as def. So def, and you have to mention the name of the function. I will use sum. Then you have to put one colon. Then under that you have to write a operation of that function. So before that, here we have to give the a parenthesis. In this parenthesis, you have to mention about the argument. Whatever we give in this parenthesis is called as argument. I will give like num1, comma num2. Then I will write the body of this function, that is return num1 plus num2. So this is a very simple function. So I will run this. Then if I use sum of 1, comma 3 and I run the code, it will give me the result, that is 4. It will sum of the two numbers and give me the result 4. So this is a simple function. So here I defined this function. After that I defined this function. Whenever I call this function, it will automatically did this operation and return the value as a result to me. So whenever you are defining the function, you have to use def keyword to define any function. Then you have to give the name of that function so that you can call it whenever you need it. Then within a parenthesis, you will put some inputs that is called as arguments. So here the sum for the sum function, this 1 and 3 are the argument. You have to mention the number of argument within a, whenever you're defining the function, you have to mention about that is num1 and num2. You can give any name, a or b, any name, but it's very readable, right? Num1 and num2, because for the sum function you don't give like a word or a string. You have to give an integer value. So the num1 and num2. Then I will put one colon, and after that in the body of the function I will write the operation, that is num1 plus num2, that is written for this sum. Whenever I call this sum function, it will perform addition of two numbers and return the value of the addition to the as a result. So this is a very simple function. Then see, what are the rules for defining a name or defining a function? So what are the main rules? What are the rules are to be followed while defining any function? So the function name rules is same as variable. Whatever we have the rules for naming a variable, like it can be a combination of number, underscore, and alphabet. It should not contain any special character except an underscore. It can be start from underscore and alphabet, but not from a number. Then along with this, we have some other rules like name of the function should be resemble its purpose. Like this is a name of the function. It should resemble its purpose so user can easily identify what this the function is about. For in this function, it is doing a sum of two numbers. So I given the name as this function as sum. So it's a basic not we call as it rules, but it's a how we follow while defining the function. It should resemble its purpose. So we can give any name, but it should be very readable. Right? With this, when we are doing the sum of two numbers, we are defining that function with the same. It resembles its purpose. So the name of the function should be resemble its purpose. And another rule is the function must be do only one particular task. So the function must be do any one particular task. Here the function is doing only sum of two numbers. If you want, you can add subtraction also, multiplication of two number also, but in general, we do define a function only for a particular purpose, only because that whenever we define the function for a particular purpose, we can easily identify the error. If it is give some any error, we can easily troubleshoot that function. If we do all the calculation in one function, it is very difficult for us to troubleshoot while program is running. So it's a general rule that the function should resemble any one function should be for only one purpose. Then the length of the function not exceeds 10 line. So the length of the function is not exceed 10 line only because it's easy for troubleshoot and it seems very simple. If you want, you can include any number of lines in your function, but as a general, while defining the function, we follow the rules like it should not be more than 10 line because when it's more than 10 line, it will become very difficult for troubleshooting and all. Then so just to sum up, function is the process of automating a repeated task. So it's a set of code. It's do a particular operation. In function, we have three types like library function, inbuilt function, and user-defined function. Library functions are the functions that are available in some libraries, and inbuilt function are the function that is readily available in Python, and user-defined function is the function that is user will define the function and use that function in its code. So while defining the function, you have to use the def means definition. There's a keyword to define any function. Then you have to give the name of that function. Then within parentheses, we have to mention about the argument of that function. Then you have to put one colon, and then within that we have to write the operation of that function. That's called as the body of that function. With written, if you write any operation, it will give us that as the result of that function. So I defined the function over here and run this, and when after that I will use that sum. That's the name of, I will call that function by name sum because I defined the name of that function as sum. Then I call it, and I can use two arguments like 1 and 3. Then I run the code, it will give the result as 4. So this is about the function. So in function, we can get only one result and we can also get two results. For example, if I want to get the two output for this function. For I am first defined for the sum of two numbers, and I will do the same number using same argument. I will do the subtraction or a multiplication. Num1 into num2. Okay, I will run this code, then I will run this. So this function give me the two results. First one is sum of two numbers like 3 and 1, that is 4. Then the multiplication of two numbers, that is num1 and num2, that is 3 and 1, that is 3. So if you want to get the two output for that same function, you can use while defining the body, you can use the comma and do any other operation. For example, if I mention the return statement of the same here, let's see what will happen. So I run the code. No, it won't give the result because if you mention two return statement, it only give one return statement. It won't give the two return statement. So if you want to get a output with return statement, you have to mention it over here by putting comma, then only it gives the result. So this is about getting two output from using one return statement. So then let's see about the print and return statement in the function, within a function. So I will use the same example. So this is my function. I will use define sum of num1 and num2. Then instead of return, I will use print num1 plus num2. So let's see what will happen. I will run this and I will run this. It will also give the result 4. And if I use return num1 and plus num2, let's see what will happen. I will run this, then I will run this. It gave me the two output, one for print, one for print and another one for the return. So what's the difference between the print and the return statement? So the simple difference between the print and return statement is the print only show me the result, but using return we can store the value of that return, and we can use that return output for the future. So print only show the result. We can't store it for further use, but return we can use it for the further purpose. So this is a simple difference between the print and the return. So the print output cannot be reused. The return output can be reused. If I use return statement and then I will use that print, what will happen? Let's see. I will use print over here. Let's see what will happen. Run this code and run this code. It only give one result because whenever the function identify the return statement, it won't move further. It only give the result for the return statement. But if I use return at the last, it will first print the number, then it will go for the return statement. So the return statement always be included in the last of the code or function. So otherwise it won't print the result. It automatically identify the return statement. It will stop over here and it will give only one output. So this is a basic difference between the print and the return. Print value we can't store it and we can't use it for the further. Return we can store it and you can be reuse the output of that return. Now you get some understanding about the print and return statement. What's the difference between print and return statement? So as I told, the difference is by using print statement, we can show the result, but we can't store it in another variable. By using return statement in a function, we can store that and we can use it for the further operation. So what does it really means? Let's see with an example. So I will use the same example. So define sum of num and 2 and return. I will use return here. Return num1 plus num2. So this is my simple function. Then I will call the function that I defined. Then I will use two argument 1 and 2. Then I run this code. It will give me the result 3. So here I use it for this function the return statement. So as I told, by using return we can store it. So I will use a variable to store the result of this function. Then I will run this code. If I call a now, then it will give me the result of 3 because I have stored the result of the sum function in a variable. So a variable is now with the number 3. So let's see what will happen if I use print over here. I will run this code. Then I will run this one. It give me the result 3. First, before that I have to restart because okay. I will run this code. Here I use print and I will run this code. Then I will use the sum. I will call the sum function. Then give the two argument and I want to store that value in a variable a, and I will run this code. Give me the result 3, and I call the a variable, but it won't give me the 3 as we got the result in while using return statement. The a is stored with the sum of, because here there we use the return statement, but here we use a print statement, so it won't able to store the value in a. So now a don't have any value because we can't store the value using print function. I use the print function in while defining that sum function. So by using print function I can't store the value. I can only store the value by using return function, return statement. By using return only I can use it to store the value. Otherwise it only that function only shows the result, but it can't able to store the result in another variable. So that is the simple difference between the return and the print statement. If I use return over here, then if I run this function, then I will run this function, then I will run this. Now if I give a, and it will give the result 3 because now the sum of 1 and 2 is stored in a, because while defining the function we give the return, not print. So the difference between return and the print is, using return we can store the value of that function in any variable. By using print we can only show the value, but we can't store the value. As we can store the value using return, we can also store more than one value, as we can give the return of more than one operation. We can also store the more than one value. Like for example, I will do the multiplication of num1 and num2, num1 and num2. Then num1 and num2. Then I will run this. I want to store. In the first statement, I have only one return statement, but in this function, whichever I define now, I have two operations. One is addition, another one is multiplication. So I need two variables to store the result of that. Then I will put one comma and I will give another variable. Then I will run this code. Then let's see. Now I print a and print b. What will happen? When I print a and b, it will give 3 and 2. Means the a value is stored with the first addition and b is stored with the second multiplication. because in some function I have two return statement and I can store the two return statement in the A and B. But if I use print, it won't able to, it will give the result, but it won't able to store the result in a variable. So by using return statement, we can also store the variable. We can also store the result in two or more variables. If I have more than two operation over here, I can give another variable to store that value. Then let's understand about the arguments in the function. So in the function, whatever within the parenthesis is called as argument. So argument basically the input for the function. By using the input, it will do some operation and it will return the value. So in function in Python, we have the types of the argument in function. They are the positional argument, then default argument, named argument, and variable length argument. So these are the four basic types of argument. So let's understand one by one with example. So what is positional argument? These are the basic types of any argument. Like they are the most common type of function argument. They are passed to the function in order they are defined, and their values are matched based on their position in the function's parameter list. So in this function, these two are the arguments. So we can call it as a positional argument. When I call the function like sum, when I call the function sum, it will expect me to give two input as argument. The sum function expect me to give two inputs because while defining the function, I have given two argument. So it will expect me to give two argument. Okay, I will change this to code. So when I run this function, first I will run this and I will run this one. I will give 6 over here and I run this. It will give me the result of 2. So this is called as positional argument. Means it will take the first num as the based on the position. It will take 6 as num1 and 3 as num2, and it will do the operation like num1 divided by num2. It will take 6 as first argument and 3 as second argument. So this is called as positional argument. It will take the argument based on the position. Whatever we defined in the while defining the function, it will take as it is. So what if I give only one argument to the sum function? So when I give only one argument, it will give the error telling that missing one required positional argument num2. It will telling me that the sum function expect me to give the two argument, but here I give only one argument. So it will raising an error that missing one required positional argument because while defining I mentioned two position num1 and num2. So it is expecting me to give two positional argument. So it will give me the error like required one positional argument num2. So this is a positional argument. The next one is default argument. So what's default? So default argument are the parameters that have predefined value. Whenever I defining the function, if I assign the predefined value to that argument, that type of argument is called as default argument. For example, in this function, I will give the num2 argument as 2. Okay, and I will run this code, and if I use the sum function to do this operation, it will give me the result, right? If suppose I don't give another argument num2 and I only give the num1 or any one argument, what will happen? Let's run this. Again it gives the result because the num2 is assigned with 2. If I don't give any argument, Python by itself take that default argument because I already defined it. The user don't give any argument for this num2, it will automatically take the whatever is default. So this is called as default argument. By using default argument, we can assign the value in the function defining section itself. So if the user don't give any argument, expected argument, it will automatically take that as a default value. So this is called as default argument. The first one is positional argument. It expect me to give 2 input for this. In the second one is default, I assign the value of 2 to the num2. So if I don't give any argument, it will take this as the default and it will do the operation and give the result. So that is about default argument. Then we have keyword or named argument. So what is keyword or named argument? I have 2 argument. I defined 2 argument, right? Then while calling a function, I can name by using keyword. For the keyword for num1 is num1. So I will use num1 is equal to for example 8, and I will use num1 is equal to 8 and num2 is equal to 4. Then if I run this code, it will give me the result 2. If I change here num2 is equal to 9 and num1 is equal to 27. So what will happen? It also take num1 in this position and num2 in this position. Here I used the keyword of the argument to assign the value. Otherwise, if I directly give the 9 and 27, it will do ulta. It will take 9 as num1 and 27 as num2. But in this, I have clearly defined, I have clearly shows that num2 value is 9 and num1 value is 27. So the function, the Python will understand the num1 value is 27. So it taken first and num2 value is 9 and is taken next, and it will do the operation. That is called as keyword or named argument. When we call the function, we can explicitly specify the value for parameter by using their name. So these are the name of the parameter. By using that name, you can assign the value. This allows you to pass the argument out of the order and make code more readable. So by this way, the code is more readable. By this way, I can understand the num2 value is 9 and num1 value is 27. When I do the operation in the function, it will take num1 value as 27 divided by num2 value as 9. So this is called as a named argument because we specified the name of argument. So we see the 3 types, like positional argument, it will take the value based on the position. Then we have default argument. We defaultly assign the while defining the function, we defaultly assign any value to the argument. When the user of that function, it don't give any argument, it will take the default value and do the operation. Then we saw about a named argument. In this named argument, while calling the function, we will define the argument by using the keyword name. So this is about 3 types. Next, see variable length argument. Okay, in all these 3 types, we have one limitation, that we can only include the element whichever is defined. If I use 2 argument for this function, I can only give 2 inputs like num1 and num2. It's limited to that. If I give more than that, for example, if I give 2, 3, it will work. It will work because it is expecting me to give 2 arguments. If I give more than 3, 2, it give error because the function is defined only with 2 arguments. So I can use that function only with 2 arguments. If I give more than 2 arguments, it will give me the error. It will give me the error like take 2 positional arguments but 3 were given. It won't give the result for this if I give 3 arguments for the function only defined with 2 arguments. So the next type of argument is variable length argument. To overcome this problem, we have another type of argument, that is variable length argument. So the Python allow you to define the function with variable length arguments using asterisks, arcs, and keyword syntax. Asterisks arcs allow a function to accept a variable number for non-keyword argument as a tuple. So let's see with an example. So I will write one code. So I will write one code too. For all the function I have discussed it so far, like positional argument, default argument, and named argument, the one thing is common, that I know how much argument I can include. More than that, I can't use in this function. I can only include that much of argument whichever I defined. So for some function, I can only include 2 argument while calling this function. So for overcome this problem, we don't know how much argument the user will give while calling a function. He may have 2, 3, or 4. He may want to add like one number with 2 number with 3 number of, he want a sum of 4 number, 5 number, anything. So we can't write a code of all the for 2 variable, 2 argument, for 3 argument. No. For overcome this problem, we have another type of argument that is called as asterisk argument or variable numbered argument. So if I don't know how much is the argument, I will use simply the star symbol over here, and it will take n number of argument. So star symbol num, if I use return num, okay, return num, and I will run this code, then now I call some function and I will use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 argument here, and I will run this code. It will give me the answer of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It will automatically identify how many numbers of argument are there in this function, and it will give the output. So by using star num, I can able to include many number of argument in this function. So that is the use of variable numbered argument. So by using this, we can automatically perform many operation. For that, we don't know how much is the argument limit. So it's left to the user. He can give n number of argument and that function will work. So this is the use of variable numbered argument. For example, I will use the sum of this value. So I will write the code as for I in num, for I in num colon, before that I have to mention the sum is equal to 0. Then I will tell sum is equal to sum plus I. Then I return that return sum. Let's see what will happen. So it give me the sum of all these argument. What will happen here is it will take the argument. This function can take n number of argument because I mentioned asterisk before the num. And first I will assign the sum with 0. Then I will use for I means the number in the argument I in num. Here I have this many arguments. For that, use sum is equal to sum plus I means sum plus 1. In the first loop, it will add sum means 0 plus 1 and it is incremented by 1, and 0 plus the 1 plus 2, it will become 3. The sum value is now 3. Then another loop, sum plus 3 means it will become 6. Then another loop, sum plus I, that is 4, that is 10, 15, 21. So this is how this function works. It will take all the argument given by the user while calling the function, and it will take all the argument and it will sum of all the argument and it will return the value, that is 21. So this is the use of the num function. Before that, before discussed argument, we can't do like this because it has the limitation of argument. We can, if you have defined only 2 argument, it will expect me to give only 2 argument. More than that argument it won't work. But in numbered argument, variable numbered argument, it can take n number of argument and it will do any specific operation like this. So this is the use of the numbered argument. So variable numbered argument are used to define those functions. For that, the variable, the argument limit is unlimited. We can use n number of argument to that function and we can perform any specific operation. Now let's do some simple exercises, practice exercises for the topic covered. So I will write one code to count the number of capital letter. So I will define one function that count the number of capital letters in a string. So I will first to define the function, that is c count, okay, count capital. Then I will give this, and I have to take input from the user. So I will assign that input to a and the input in the string. So I will call it as a string. Then I will call input enter a string, enter a string. Then I will use for loop for each element in a, for each element I in a, if I is upper, so if I is upper, count is equal to count plus 1. So I use the count here, so I have to assign the initial value to the count. Count is equal to 0. So while we are writing code, we understood about the logic of the code. We can write it. It's not like we know everything about the code. We just understand the logic. Here I use count. So before that I have to define that. That is a simple logic I use. If you understand the logic, we can write any code. So I will use the count plus 1. So each time it encountered with the uppercase, it will increment the value of count by 1. So at last in the function, I want to return that count value. Okay. So this is my simple code to count. It take input as a string. Let's see what will happen. So I will call that function count. When I call the function, it asks me to give a string because I will here enter the input statement within a function. I included one input statement, so it's asking me to give one string. So I will give one string like with 3 capital. Let's see whether it give the return as 3. If it's give 3, our function will be treated as right. So it give me the answer 3 because it counts 1, 2, 3. So our function is successfully count the number of capital letters, whatever the string I give. Fetch change the string to all the capital. Okay, it include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 capital. Then I will run this. It gives the 7. So this is how you can write a function. Here I defined the function count. Within a function, I used input statement to receive the whenever this function is called. Because I use an input statement, whenever this function is called, is ask the user to give some input in a string. So after that it will do this operation and it will return the count value. So this is a simple function to count the number of upper letters in a string. So within this function we used input statement. Let's define another function to take n number of input from a user. So it's an example for an variable numbered argument. So it's an example for variable numbered argument. So this is simple function. So I will define the function for the purpose of our identifiers. I give a square root of the number I have given. Sq, okay, sqrt. I will give the name of the function as sqrt. So I let the user to give n number of values. So I will use star over here. So by this we can include n number of value and return the output. So I will use for each element in num. Okay, each element in num return I square. So just check whether this will work or not. So for I in for I in each value in num, then I can give this and run this code. Then I will call the sqrt function that I just defined. Then within a function I can give any number of values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, then I run this. It will write only 1 because it return only 1. Once the return statement is identify any function, it will stop there. But I want return for all, so I will use print. Okay, I will use print. Then I will run this code. Then I got the result for all. So the coding about exploring in this for return, I got the error. Means I got result for only 1. So I changed it to print. So while learning coding, we have to be flexible. We have to identify the errors and we implement a corrective measure so that we can learn how the coding will work. So this is a function that give me the result of square of all. include any number. Means if I increase two number extra, it will give the result. So this is how the function is defined. So here I defined the square root function. It can include n number of argument. After taking the argument for each element in the whichever in the column, in this parenthesis, it will print I into 2 means a square of that. Here I have to give the square. It's okay. So this is how the function will work. Okay, let's see another one interesting thing in the function. So that is packed and unpacked output or return. So I will explain with the example. So first I will define one function that name is ABC. Then I want to include a number of num. Then I will give two return statement, that is one is print asterisk num, then another one is print only num. So let's run the code and check the output. I will call the function ABC and I will give like 1 2 3 4 5. Then I will run the code. It gave me two output because I entered two print statements. So it will give, this function gave me the two output, that is 1 2 3 4 5 and 1 2 3 4. Everything is same, but the difference is the first one is unpacked and the second one is packed with tuple. So this is the difference between when we use that asterisk. So if I use asterisk, it return the same as here but unpacked. When I use only num, it will come with packed. So this is called as unpacked and packed output. So I can't return, means I can't store unpacked. I can only store packed. Okay, if I run this code, it will give me the result. But in this two result, I can store only this value because this is unpacked. The unpacked can't be stored. And if you want to store, you have to enter it in the return statement. So I will use return to return this as that packed. If I use the same return in for the unpacked, let's see what will happen. Return, and I will hit run. It will give me the error because we cannot use the starred expression here because it won't take. Starred means unpacked. We can't return the unpacked. We can only print the unpacked and we can't return the unpacked packed, and we can only store the return statement. We cannot store the print. So this is the two type. One is packed. This is packed with tuple. This is unpacked. If you want to pack, you just use return or print that num. If you want unpacked, you have to use asterisk of that argument. So this is about print and return of packed and unpacked. Okay, by this we have covered some of the basic about the function. So just to sum up, the function is the predefined code that is used to do specific operation. So it is the code will be run when the function is called. And we understood about the types of function. There are three types mainly, that is library function, inbuilt function and user defined function. Then we dived into the user defined function and we saw about some of the rules about user defined function. Then we saw about how to store the output of the function. We can store we can store the output in a multiple variable. Then we have understood about the arguments in function, and we have saw the types of argument like positional argument, default argument, named argument and variable numbered argument or numbered variable argument with asterisk. And we saw about some of the example of how to include that input statement within a function and how to get a result. And we also saw about the print and the return, what's the difference between the print and the return, and how to and we also understood about the packed and unpacked of the output. So this is the end of this video. Thank you.